Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our weekly Hebrew word study. We're going to take a little bit of a diversion today from our normal text of in First Samuel. I'm going to take a look at a verse I came across in the book of Psalms. Also, want to give you just another refresher on how to use Bible Hub. You'll see as I'm sharing my screen, I just have a bookmark for Bible Hub. When you do open it, it depends upon how you last saved it or what your computer um, search engine is like. I'm not quite sure what it will come up here, but what I want to guide you through is in this search engine or search tab here, just type in Psalm. And today we're looking at chapter 122 and verse 3. And so when you type that in, hit the enter button, it will take you somewhere for that psalm. And here it happens to take me to more of a text analysis. And what you want to click then is this word abbreviation for interlinear. And when you click that, it will create a view similar to what we've been looking at previously. But hopefully that'll help you as you try to navigate the uh, Bible Hub. It has many different tools in it. This is just the one that I tend to use the most is the interlinear because it gives me kind of a word visual association that I can look at the Hebrew word. I can see a phonetic above it to help me with the pronunciation, even though please be somewhat advised that the pronunciation they have is more of a biblical Hebrew or a classical Hebrew. It is not modern Hebrew, and you'll see that they don't get it right. I find mispronunciations in the um, transcribing of it here, especially just the difference between the bet with a hard dagish and a bet without the dagish, which would be a V sound. The cuff with dagish versus the cuff without the dagish, which is more of a CH het sound. So there are many differences here. Also, it doesn't give you any of the comments hatuf pronunciations. So just be aware that don't put all of the stock in these phonetic pronunciations above here because they are not agreed upon, and I found that there are errors. But anyway, the point today is to look at this verse, chapter 122 and verse 3. This verse has always intrigued me because as it reads pretty much like the King James, that Jerusalem is a city built that's compacted together. Well, okay, what does that mean? I've always uh, just rationalize that, okay, it's, everybody lives on top of one another. It's apartment type dwellings, not a lot of room. Everybody's just stuffed in a small place. But then as I was reading this, I don't know, it's something just checked inside of me, had a remez that I need to look at this a little further because if you think of it, every city back at these times were walled cities. People were crowded in small areas for protection, for safety. They had a wall around about them. And then during the daytime, they would go out and work in the fields and the other outbuildings that were around the cities. So what was special about Jerusalem, all of them were compact, all of them were tight, crammed in together. So that's where the beauty of the Hebrew language, again, just takes us into a better understanding. So this is a short verse. We'll go through each verse here. You see Jerusalem, which is in Hebrew, Yerushalayim. Hebrew does not have the letter J. The letter J is put there because of the um, transcription or translation into English, somewhat based upon um, German influence many decades ago, hundreds of years ago. But in Hebrew, there is no J. So it's Yerushalayim with a Y. Then it has the word Bana, um, put here with the article in front, Habanuya, which is just meaning that it is built, but it is the word bana, which you may be familiar with, used very commonly in the Bible. And then the next word is ir, which is city, and it has the kaf in front as a preposition, meaning like, as, because. Kaf has many, many, dozens of different meanings it could be. But of course, here it fits as a city. So Jerusalem was built as a city. But then we get to the word that just intrigued me, that is compact. And we see this is a long word as we try to parse it out or divide it into parts. We see the shin in the front, which is kind of a means there or that. And then we see that it ends with the hey ending with a commas underneath, which would tell us it's a feminine singular ending, but the root word is the chet, the bait, and the resh. So we're just going to click on this little hyperlink of as I hold my cursor above 2266, and it will take us into um, the meanings here. And this is where it really became fascinating that I saw that the word comes from not only to unite, but being joined together. But the method of how it was joined together, I thought was fascinating. It is like linking together with a charm, with a magic spell or a knot to tie a magic knot. How can you not be intrigued by the meaning of this? Because I've never seen any English translation that said, anything to give any indication that this has any of this meaning of being charmed together. You'll see here when they translate it, it's used in, quite a few times, 30 times in the Bible, and no one translates it as charming, casting a charm or a spell, or being possessed in a way. And that's where I really started to get intrigued. As we look down to the Brown Driver Briggs, we see that its first meaning is to have this binding, like a spell, something that just possesses you and links you together. And so remember, we're talking about the city of Jerusalem. So going to take a look at the Dictionary of the Targumim by Marcus Jastrow. He was a Hebrew scholar that took the Aramaic Targums, and which was the basic language of the people. In the time of Jesus, it was afterwards. It was just a basic language, a sister language to Hebrew. And so from it, we get a lot of association and learning. So when we look at this word, which in the root is the het, the bet, and the resh, we see it starts out with to join, befriend, assist. Um, I don't know where they get compact from at all. But what is fascinating here is it's still giving the indication that something is happening to bind in a emotional, in a mental way, a person to this city of Jerusalem. And this word has quite a bit of definition to it. Of course, the vowel pointings underneath are put in by a group of people, Jews called the Masoretes, that lived and after the time of Christ. They took it upon themselves to put in the vowels because they felt the language was falling into disuse and they were forgetting how to pronounce it and what the words meant. So they spent at least 300 years going through the entire Bible this is the Hebrew Bible, and discerning and deciding what vowels should go underneath, what the words meant, and putting the vowels underneath, which is what we have today. So the vowels are not, we're not in there to begin with. And so we can always maybe gain some different understanding if we say, okay, well, this just isn't making sense. Look at different vowel pointings with the same consonants and see if we get a word that better fits the text, better fits our how God is speaking to us and through His Word. And so we see here this word has many different vowel pointings, and again, all along it's something that's happening to join something together, but yet like a charmer or a magician causes things to happen. So this is just very interesting, and I struggled with why this would say that and why the translators didn't put this in. But I happened to come across something that was very common at the same time frame. Remember, the King James Version was transcribed, was translated in 1611, a very Puritan time. The Church of England was in charge, very similar to, a very hierarchy church of a lot of rules and regulations, no moving of the spirit, more just formality and ritual. And so, they were afraid and of anything that was spiritual. Also, pretty much simultaneously in the New World, in the United States, before it was that, in the colonies, were the Salem witch trials. Um, this was a very sad time in our history, fascinating to read. But basically, people who had some sort of spirituality and maybe didn't know what it was, didn't know how to accurately control it or contain it, um, and whether it was in a godly way or ungodly way, they were looked at in a very negative way as being under possession, and as they were calling them, witches under demon possession. And of course, at least I believe 19 people were murdered, killed because of that. Some by hanging in various different ways. I think the number might even be a little higher, 22, 23 people. Um, but this was during that time frame when certainly you wouldn't write a Bible that says that Jerusalem is built as a as a spell, as something that's associated with witchcraft or with the spiritualism type of things. But yet, what we see here is that people will say that Jerusalem is a city that has almost a spell over you, that when you come to it, you're overcome by the history and the ancient uh, things that happen there and what has occurred there for thousands and thousands of years. And it's the spiritual center of the world. Christians, Muslims, Jews all come back to the spot as their founding of their religion as they look at it. And so it is very commonly said that Jerusalem can cast a spell upon you. It can get in your mind, in your heart, and that you will have a love and a passion for that city that many people have said. So this is, I think, an incredible verse that confirms what people know and what they feel. Let's just look at the last word here, the Yahdav. Together is meaning it's united. It has a little. I like the deeper meaning of just something that you have your heart set towards it. That is really a nice analogy here. And again, fits, I feel, very well with the idea of Jerusalem getting in your heart, getting in your mind, coming together. And people say once they've been there, they never forget that experience, that they're touched and moved by being in that city and being in the midst of all that history that has to do with where the Lord's city is and the things that happened in the Bible and in all of history. So, hope you enjoy that little bit of look at Psalm 122, verse 3. It certainly clarifies it for me and helps me just to have a better understanding of some of these somewhat different translations into English that aren't always as clear. So God bless you and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.